Aloha and welcome to Crossroads in Learning. I am your host, Kecia King, where we have conversations that are real and relevant. And today we are at the midway crossroads of 2020. So far, we've battled COVID-19 and racial unrest. The economy is turned upside down, and we are preparing to hopefully open and rebuild. So this week, most businesses in Hawaii have reopened. Many organizations, large and small, are taking a clear stance against injustice and the spreading of germs, which are two different pendulums or spectrums on the pendulum. But it is a step forward in the right direction, and we're hoping for lots of improvement in both areas. Today, my guests will share their views on both COVID as well as the racial unrest. Please welcome with me to the show both my guests. Ashli, we'll start with you. Please introduce yourselves.
All right. Thank you, Kecia. My name is Ashli Sasano. I am a long-term resident of Oahu. I was born and raised here. I am currently a financial advisor with Equitable Advisors. I focus on retirement planning. And I am also the president of the Rotary Club of East Honolulu. In a couple of weeks, I will be starting my second term as president. So thank you so much for having me here today, Kecia.
Thank you so much for joining me. Our next guest is Breyahna. She was also a guest with me in recent weeks. Breyahna, please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kecia King. I have been living in Hawaii for 3.5 years. I'm a small business owner of Everything Beauty by Breyahna. It's just a small salon for cosmetology, and I'm excited and very honored to be on this show today. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, for those of you who don't know, Breyahna is my actual firstborn child, my daughter. And I am so glad that she is joining me for these discussions because it's stuff that's going on in the world that parents need to talk about with their children. So Ashli, we'll start with you, especially as it pertains to Rotary. Please tell us, what changes have you made to your club's meetings and activities due to COVID?
Well, when COVID first started, we actually took a few weeks to stop our in-person meetings. This was, of course, back in March when we heard we were going to go on the stay-at-home order. We took a few weeks to stop our in-person meetings, of course. And after a couple weeks break, we ended up starting Zoom meetings. I mean, it was my first time actually running online meetings. I'm a fairly young person, but the technology on running online meetings was something a little bit new to me. So we started that about maybe mid-April after taking about 3 weeks off. And we've been going pretty strong ever since. We've been able to get good speakers on, and our members, I think, come out pretty strongly to the new way that we do things. As far as our service projects, those have been a little bit different. We're doing ones where we can maybe do them on our own and share pictures with each other of what we're doing to kind of help out our community. But definitely, of course, we've made the changes so that we're not meeting in person.
Yes, well, that's very important. When we got the order to stop everything, I think all businesses and clubs and organizations had to quickly regroup. But there was, as you mentioned, that 2-week time frame that made you say, what exactly are we going to do and how can we do it? I think your recovery was really quick. In what ways has your club supported the community during the onset of COVID? You mentioned it changed. What did you do?
So we were actually very, very fortunate that the district, Rotary District, so all of Hawaii is one Rotary District. It's called District 5000. We were given a grant. So we put in some of our own club funds. The district granted us a few additional, maybe a few $100s to add to that. And we did a multi-club project. So not just our Rotary Club of East Honolulu, but a few other clubs within our area we got together and we did a multi-club project, and we got about 1,000 face shields that we purchased through Min's Plastic. They're a local company here in Hawaii. We purchased face shields and we assembled them. We split them up, so we assembled them in our own homes, and then we delivered them to places like Navian, Hawaii, which is formerly Hospice Hawaii, a couple of, people on the front lines, people that weren't able to get those face shields. So that's one of the biggest things that we did as a Rotary Club to help with the COVID focus during this time.
I appreciate that. It was so quick, your turnaround time offering face shields and masks especially. Can you repeat that as to the number that you were able to get out to people? How many?
Of course, we got approximately 1,000. I would say just slightly under 1,000, because it was basically how many dollars we had and what that could purchase. Of course, including tax, because we were purchasing it from Min's Plastics. So it was about, I want to say 980-ish around there, but we distributed them to so many different organizations. I think especially some of the nursing homes that weren't able to get hospitals, I think, had an easier time getting the face shields, those plastic face shields, but some of the nursing homes, they had a hard time. So we made sure that we got a lot to them. I think some of the other clubs gave them out to like maybe some EMS workers and firefighters, as well as a few restaurants that were doing takeout that needed it to protect their workers. So we just got them out in the community where we knew that they were needed.
And that's pretty much exactly the mission of Rotary, to meet the need of the people. So thank you for doing that. As I recall, there is a national convention that was scheduled for Hawaii this year. Was that canceled?
Yeah, unfortunately it was. So one of the things that Rotary does every single year is there's a national convention, and it rotates to a different country every single year. And basically the host country and host city, they have to put in a bid for it, almost like the Olympics, right? They put in a bid for it. They hope they get the bid, and then maybe the bid is for 6 years down the road. So this is something that our district have been working on for years. It was supposed to take place the first weekend in June here locally, but with everything going on, of course, and I would say about 20 to 30,000 people just come into the islands to attend this, or would have been coming into the islands to attend this. And with COVID and all the travel restrictions, it really made it a little impossible to do. But I think one of the great things that Rotary was able to do was they took it and they basically created a virtual convention, which is going on now. It is free for anyone to attend, and it's great because the convention is usually around $400 to attend. It's usually about a 3-4 day convention, costs about roughly $400, and if it's not in your home state or your home city, you have to travel to it. So this is a great opportunity for people to attend a Rotary International Convention for free. So
Yes.
it is going on now. It's at I wrote it down here. It's riconvention.org, and anybody can check it out. It's for us here in Hawaii, they started at 3 a.m. So of course everything is recorded, so people can go on and check out all the different sessions that have already happened and that are recorded.
Okay, great. I hope people take advantage of that. Breyahna, are your clients a little bit apprehensive about returning to the salon? I kind of wanted to know what that's been like for you.
Well, I don't feel like that at all. So there's no. Being in quarantine for almost 3 months, I think you're antsy, you're ready to get out the house, but then you're ready to feel good and look good again. So as soon as I announced that I was opening my doors up, they started coming in. They want to get their hair cut. People are looking like, the Wolfman. And then, you have some ladies out here, their hair is growing out, the roots and the color. So they're ready to get their hair done. And they were welcoming and very happy to see me again, as I was happy to see them too.
Very good. What safety guidelines are you required to follow now post-COVID?
Well, you want to wear your mask. I tend to go off of what the guidelines they have for the restaurants that are opening it back up.
Mhm.
Temperature checking, having your sanitation utensils, meaning some wipes, gloves, or hand sanitizer. Face protection, like you were saying, Ashley, our face masks, we have to have them. I have a couple as well. And we go through a thorough consultation before you set your appointment. Meaning, have you had any, sickness or medical um, questioning or, discrepancies during the quarantine? And what were they and how can we go on proactive about it? And there's some cases that I cannot do that. I myself have asthma, so I have to be more careful who I'm letting in because I don't want to jeopardize myself or other people around me. So temperature checking, make sure you have all your equipment, your sanitary equipment, and keeping a safe distance if we can, not having more than 5 people in the salon at the one time.
Very good. So then you're following all the guidelines. Your customers are coming in. Now that you've changed these practices, will they remain this way indefinitely, or is this something that you get a little lazy later on?
Well, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. But in cosmetology, you have to have a certain set of guidelines. There are guidelines that we have to do every time a client leaves, wiping off, sanitizing our tools. We have to do that every day. So most of these things I've already been doing. It's just adding an extra layer of precaution. And if that means I get to come home and not be sick, not worried about my breathing, be able to visit my friends and family without having any illness, I'm more than willing to do it for however long it takes.
Very good. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to switch gears just a little bit, the same way 2020 switched gears on us. We went from being so concerned with the headlines about COVID, and then all of a sudden, there appeared this racial unjust or injustices and unrest. And we stopped talking about COVID, and then we talked about riots, we talked about marches, peaceful protests that we had here in Hawaii, and many peaceful protests throughout the country and around the world. So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. You're watching Crossroads and Learning. Aloha. Aloha and welcome back to Crossroads in Learning. This is the first episode in our series of courageous conversations where we're discussing all things that have happened in 2020 thus far while we're at the halfway mark. And it's been a roller coaster ride, quite frankly. We're talking about COVID during the first half of our show. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about the racial unrest that's creating headlines for us not just here in Hawaii or throughout the country, but around the world. So we kind of want to move beyond the marches and all the beautiful, peaceful protests into positive action to get positive results. So Breyahna, I'll start with you. You've participated as an activist and key speaker in the marches that have been held here for the past several weeks. So thank you so much for your energy and your commitment and willingness to serve in that way, because we need that. But what stood out to you the most about Hawaii's protest versus the protest on the mainland?
Well, thank you so much for that. And what stood out the most was here, I feel, because as a people, Black people are treated better than in the mainland, it was a lot easier to get a protest started. There was a lot more of compassion, I feel, and it was, of course, more peaceful. But I feel like because it's peaceful here in Hawaii, this place is a place of healing. It was most important for us to do it here just because we are disconnected and still a part of the mainland doesn't mean that we can't participate. So that was the most difference. Being surrounded by peace made it more so a peaceful event and that we could partake in it more often than not.
Very good. The past weekend was Father's Day, but it was also Juneteenth. Have you ever celebrated Juneteenth prior to this weekend?
No, I have heard about it. I've always, I've grown up with it. My parents have always taught me things about my past history that will always help propel you into the future. So I knew it will come back up in my lifetime and it will be a day of reckoning that we celebrate this all as a country. So this was my first time and it was beautiful. I went to a cookout that was um, around in Kapiolani Park with people from the Black community that I had never seen, I had never met. And it was such a great introduction to a holiday that I look forward to celebrating for the rest of my life.
Why do you think it was so important to celebrate it this year? If you've never celebrated it before, why this year was it a big deal for you?
Well, in the year of 2020, vision, clear vision, I think people are seeing clearly and thinking with a different way, with a different mindset. And because of the murder of George Floyd and Juneteenth being so close to Father's Day, I feel like it was great timing to celebrate our Black men and our families and our lives, and to celebrate the Black men who gave their lives for our family during the revolution of Juneteenth, and to let them know that we remember them, we remember our Black fathers here, and we remember the Black fathers who were lost during all of that. So it was very important. I'm so happy that it landed around the same time. Very
Mm,
important.
wonderful. And you're exactly right. It was very close to Father's Day and the loss of George Floyd, a father himself. Ashli, as a resident of Oahu nearly all your life, have you ever heard of the Juneteenth holiday?
Um, to be completely honest, I've seen references to it, and unfortunately, I don't think there was much education or, I guess, awareness of really what Juneteenth was. I think there's just, unfortunately, not a lot of recognition about it. So no, I hadn't heard about it until really this year.
Okay, and that's understandable. You're right. It's based upon education and what's being shared in the masses of education. However, what is Rotary or your Rotary Club done to increase awareness and compassion regarding that holiday and unfamiliar topics in
Well,
general?
I thank you for asking, Keisha. So I think because I knew that I personally knew very little bit about Juneteenth, and I know that we've got a lot of members that have, been born and raised here on Oahu, here in Hawaii, that really didn't know much about it either. I saw that you, Keisha, were hosting an educational session this past weekend about it, and I reached out to you and I asked if you could please talk to our members and really educate us about the history and the significance of this holiday. And I think it was very eye-opening. I know a lot of our members that were on the meeting today very much learned something that we had never learned about. Some of the members, are much older than I am. I'm in my 30s, and some of our members are in their 60s and 70s, and they hadn't really been educated about it as well. So I think that's one of the things that I wanted to do for our club, especially with you, Keisha, being one of our members. We do like to make sure that we get to know our members as well and what's important to them. And I guess in regards to how do we increase awareness and compassion for maybe unfamiliar topics, unfamiliar things that that's around there. We as a club, we try to work in speakers that can kind of educate us on these different topics and these different things that are going on in the world. Sometimes I think maybe Hawaii is a little bit of a bubble where we don't necessarily know about, or we don't necessarily recognize or experience these issues that are going on around the world. So we want to make sure that we still stay in touch with that, because we are, as an organization, Rotary is very much an international and global organization. We want to make sure we're in touch with all the different issues that are going on throughout the world.
Yeah. And I think you do a great job of that. Thank you for the opportunity to share with our Rotary Club about Juneteenth and other topics today. And always, I thank you for having that open door. Has Rotary International made a statement regarding any racial bias or the current events?
Yes, Rotary, of course, when everything started going on, they did issue a statement that basically racism has no place in Rotary. We are a global organization, and we are we're founded on bringing people together. And of course, racism is something that splits people apart, and that is something Rotary is very much against. We want to make sure that we as a community, whether it's locally in our, in our local club, our city, our state, our nation, and even around the world, we are one big global community. And I think Rotary and everything it stands for is the opposite of racism.
Very good. And you're exactly right, which is why I was happy to join and become a member. I think when you look throughout our not just our club, but throughout the city or the island of Oahu, I noticed people from many different backgrounds, ethnicities, gender, preferences, you name it. And we have a great deal to be proud of as a Rotary club and internationally. So moving forward, we're going to continue to have these discussions. As you can see, I have various age groups, someone in their 20s, someone in their 30s, and someone that I won't say how old I am, because we want to get different backgrounds, different age groups, different ideas, ethnicities, you name it, because that's how you can increase your knowledge base. And increasing your knowledge is what has the most powerful impact on what we do in our daily lives. So we would implore you to continue to have courageous conversations. You can join us for that series here on Crossroads in Learning. Thank you, Ashli, and thank you, Breyahna, for being our guest today. And we'll see you next time on Crossroads in Learning. Aloha. Presidency. I don't know how to say that. Eric,